In this video, I will show you how to create a new vendor in Business Central. From my main menu, I will access Purchasing and then the vendor list. In the vendor list, I can select New to create a new vendor, either by a number I define or by selecting a number series. And this vendor is going to be the Allo Expert. And I can select the purchaser code from my list of purchasers. In the address, I will write the vendor address, for instance this one, and in the zip code I could enter the zip code if I know it, and it's set up, and it will automatically select the city and region code. As a contact, I can either use the contact table in Business Central, or I can use a specific contact in this one. So here I will select Hans Christian Böhler, and here's a phone number somewhere. I will enter, and an email, something like this. And I even want to add maybe the web page if I have stuff like that on the time right now. Otherwise, I can enter all these things afterwards. The language code could be important though for the document, so I will enter this one in English. On the invoicing tab, I can select information that I know of right now. If I don't fill it out, it's not possible for me to post anything on this vendor, so I will just enter the things I know for the time being. The registration number for VAT, maybe the general business posting group, if I know that one, and the vendor posting group, it's a foreign vendor. Also the currency code. And on the payment tab, I could select a payment terms code, for instance 10 days here, and a payment method code. This could be account foreign setup. And the rest I will enter when I get the first invoice from the vendor, because then I got this information. In the receiving tab, I would select the default location that I buy from this vendor to, and maybe also a shipment method code. This could be free on board, for instance. So now the vendor is pre-filled, and I can start creating purchase orders on this vendor.
In this video, I will make a short walk through the tabs on the vendor card. First, we have General, that contains the vendor number and the vendor name, and you can see the balances on the vendor. Address and contact, that will be the name, address, postcode, and if they have any contacts. Invoicing, that shows how the vendor should be invoiced in the posting setup, and if they have any VAT registration numbers. Payments, how are we going to pay our vendor? And finally, receiving, when we are getting some items from our vendor, where are we going to receive them? In this video, I'll go through the most relevant field on the vendor card for people in the purchase department. First of all, we have the vendor number, and the vendor number can be created by a number series, or you can create it manually. And you have the name of the vendor. We go to address, and we have additional address, city, and postcode. You can look into an additional table, but if the code doesn't exist in the additional table, you can just print whatever you want here. And the same with the country region code. And finally, we have the language code. That shows what language we do have correspondence with our vendor in. Moving on to invoicing, we have the general business posting group, the VAT business posting group, and the vendor posting group. All posting details are mentioned in another video. The currency code, just enter the currency in which you pay your vendor. If it's a local currency you pay your vendor with, you must leave the currency code field blank. Moving on to the payment terms code. So what is the payment due date? In this case, it's a current month. And the payment method code, how are we going to pay our vendor? And that could be, in this case, an account, or it could be cash, check, or whatever. And the final tab, receiving, where are we going to receive our goods? The location code, if you have several locations, you can enter it here. And the shipment method code, how are the delivery conditions from this vendor and to us? In this video, we'll look upon the frequently used and the calculated fields on the vendor card that is relevant for the purchase department. First, we have blocked, and that could be with payment or all, and that tells us how we can interact with the vendor if we can make any purchase from them. Privacy blocked is used with the GDPR, and it makes a limit access to data on daily basis. Last date modified just tells us when is the last time that there's been any change on this vendor. The balance in local currency is the total value of the completed purchases with the vendor in the fiscal year. And if I press upon the number, we'll dive into all the transactions. Balance due is the total of all unpaid purchase invoices and if there are any credit memos. Search name, that's an alternate name. If you don't like the name in the name field, you can enter something else here. If you don't enter anything in the search name, it automatically will have the name from the name field. Purchaser code, if you have a purchaser that is assigned to this vendor. And we move on to the primary contact code. And that's where you have a primary contact and you look into an underlying table. You can watch another video with the contacts. Or you can just enter a contact name directly on the vendor card. It doesn't look into the underlying table. Phone number, email, homepage. That should explain itself. Our account number just specifies if you know what your own account number at your vendors are, where you are a customer, of course. Moving down to invoicing, and we have the VID registration number. The VID registration number has an underlying validation table that ensures that you enter the VID numbers in the correct format for that country where your vendor is placed in. GLN specifies the connection with electronic documents for your vendor, and pay to vendor number is if you have an alternate vendor you want to pay to. It could be if your vendor has several departments, for example. The pay to vendor number looks into the vendor table when you look into it right here. So that looks into the vendor table. And finally, moving on to the prepayment. That specifies a prepayment percentage that goes on all the orders that you get from this vendor. So regardless of whatever you have on the lines, if you have any special deals on the lines, it will always take a full percentage of all the orders. And finally, partner type. That specifies whether your vendor is a person or a company. In this video, I will go through the most used action buttons on the vendor card that is relevant for the purchase department. And a lot of them actually is under the vendor, but not all of them. So I will go through the navigate button and I will choose vendor where all my buttons that I need right now are present. So you can enter the buttons from various places. First of all, look into dimensions, and this will make a lookup on the default dimensions that are set on this vendor. You can add more default dimensions to this vendor if you prefer. We have another video about all the dimensions. Then I choose the contact, and here it asks if I want to create a contact. I can create a contact. I can delete a contact if there are any in the contact list, which is an underlying table for the vendor or the customer in that case. I'll just say no. And we go to the next one, which is order address, and this is if you had an alternate order address for the vendor, it will be in a list in here. This vendor has no order addresses, but I can create new order addresses in here. And we do have comments. If there are any comments for this vendor, I have a large list of comments marked with all the dates, and I can even export it to Excel. And finally, we have approvals. This is to view a list of the records that are waiting to be approved on this vendor. This vendor has no pending approvals. All the approval flow is set up elsewhere in Business Central. So this is just an overview for this exact vendor.
Depending on which role center you're set up for, you might have an action on your role center to create purchase code. I'm here in the Purchase Agent role center, and under Actions I have Create Purchase Code. You can always search for purchase code in the system and find the list of purchase codes. You can create a new by pressing on New. If your purchase code is set up to use automatic number series, you can press Enter. If not, you can type in a purchase code number. You can type in the vendor name or select it from the list. You can request when you want to receive the items in the requested receipt date. On the lines, we select the type of item, type the item number or select it from the list. In location code, we select where we want to receive the items. In quantity, we define how many that we would like to purchase. Please note that the unit of measure here is in boxes because our item has been set up to be purchased in boxes and not in pieces. So I would like to purchase 5 boxes. You can buy more items by adding more lines. When you have evaluated the fields on your purchase quote, you can print it and send it to your vendor. Sending requests such as purchase quotes to a vendor can be done by pressing on Print Send button and press on Send. The system will then use the document sending profile set up on the vendor. I can edit the choices by changing this. For instance, if I want to edit the email before sending it, I do this in Email. Yes, in Prompt for Settings, and press OK. Now I can see the email address that this email will be sent to, the subject and the attachment, and I can write a message here for my vendor. Please make sure that you have set up the SMTP before you are able to send email from the system.
In this video, I want to show you how to create a purchase order manually in Business Central. From my purchasing menu, I will go into purchase orders, and in my purchase orders, I will select new, and then select the purchase number will be default filled in, the vendor name or number. When I fill that, it will automatically fill the header information on the purchase order. In this case, I would like to sell or buy item number 1115, which is my aloe rim, and I'd like to order 300 of those. And I'd like to buy some freight, and I use this buy this with charge item, meaning I will select charge item, and I can define different types. So this is a freight, one of those, and maybe the cost is 350 euros for that. And what I need to do now, either now or when the invoice comes, is to assign the charge item to the item line. This means I can select more options, lines, item charge assignment, after being placed on the specific line, of course. And then in my item charge window, I can suggest item charge, and the charges will be assigned to the item ledger entry that will be created when I post this line. Now I can send the purchase order to the vendor either by email, or I could just print it directly here. In this case, I'll just print it to my screen to see what it looks like. And as I can see on the printed document, it would all be in English because it's a vendor with an English language code on it, and the currency will automatically be euro because that is set up on the vendor card. In this video, I will show you how to receive goods on a purchase order. But before doing that, I want to check my item list to check my inventory level of the specific item I am receiving. So the item number aloe rim has an inventory level of 0. Now I want to find my purchase order from the purchasing menu, purchase orders. I can either search for my purchase order from the vendor number, or in this case I know it's the last one, so I'll just go and find it down here and open the purchase order. And I have one line here of my items. I only want to receive it, not to invoice it, and my quantity 300, but maybe I receive only 290, for instance, from the vendor because of whatever reasons. So I can enter quantity to receive 290, and then from my process tab I can post. And in Business Central we distinguish between receiving and invoicing. So when I post received, I will only post the warehouse transactions. So now I'm done. I've posted the quantity, and I can see my quantity received is 290. And if I go to my item list again, items, I can see that my inventory level is now 290, and I can use those items for whatever I like. In this video, I will show you how to create a simple purchase invoice and post it, and I'll make an example of buying insurance related to a receipt we have had. From my menu, I will enter my purchase invoice. And I see no purchase invoices because a purchase invoice is normally posted directly when it's entered. I will select here my vendor number that sold me the insurance. I have to fill in the posting date correct, or at least check that it's correct. On the invoice, there should be some kind of invoice number that I'd like to add. It might be whatever the number is called here. And on my line, I can select whether it's items, just like a other purchase documents. Is it a GL account I'm buying on, item, fixed assets, charge item, etc. In this case, I like to apply the cost to an existing item ledger entry that I have received earlier. Therefore, I will select item, charge item, and I will select insurance, quantity of 1, and enter the unit cost posted on my purchase invoice. And now before posting it, I need to assign this item charges to an existing purchase receipt. So I will go into more options, line, related information, item charge assignment. And here from item charts, I can get my receipt lines and find the specific lines that I've received earlier. And I have many lines, so I will filter on number, on the item number. There may be many, I'll just select, in this case there's only one, I'll select that one. And I need to go again to my item chart and suggest the assignment, so now it's all assigned. And now I can post my purchase invoice from my process, post, I can print if I want to. And I can choose to open my posted purchase invoice if I want to see what actually happened, but now it's not possible to change it again. And this is how I post a purchase invoice. My existing, the purchase invoice I created is deleted while posting. In this video, I want to show you how to make a purchase invoice directly from a purchase order based on a quantity that we have received. So I know I have an existing purchase order where I have received quantity already, and I now get the invoice from the vendor. So I'll find my purchase order, search by either item number or vendor number, and here's my purchase order. And I can see on my purchase order the quantity that I have received already. On the lines, I've received 270, and my invoice should be on that amount as well. And the purchase order would be automatically released when I received quantity, but now I get the invoice and I would like to change the prices and maybe add another line for freight that popped up on the invoice that we haven't entered yet. So I need to reopen my purchase order. I can do that from the release tab and reopen. And I can now enter the actual amounts and quantities that we have. So maybe this were a little cheaper. Maybe we got some more handling costs. And we would like to add an item charge line because it's on the purchase invoice we received. And I need to, go left here to choose what item charge. Maybe it's freight. I'll add the freight. It was an expensive thing here. And I need to assign my item charts on my lines, item chart assignments. And I can assign it automatically to the open order by suggesting item chart assignment. And I have to enter the quantity to invoice. And if I try now if I just post now, it will post both received and invoice, but I'm only going to post my invoicing, so therefore I have to modify the quantity to invoice. And I need to enter as well a vendor invoice number, whatever that is, something like that. And now I can post my invoicing of the purchase order. This means it's only partly invoicing because I still lack to receive 30 of this item, and I still want to receive my charge item, so I have to delete the quantity to receive like this. Now I can post both received and invoicing. because I deleted the quantity to receive on the first line. So this will make an invoice out of my purchase order, but it would leave the purchase order open because there's still some amount missing. So now it left the quantity to receive with 30, and it says left the quantity to invoice with 30, and all the other stuff is invoiced correctly. And I can go and find my purchase invoice that it just created, my posted purchase invoice, in here. And maybe we could just search for vendor number. Here we are. I can see whatever the invoices look like here in my posted invoice list. In Business Central, we have quite a few purchase documents, both open documents and posted documents. Actually, they're all based on the same few tables. So if you look down into the data structure on a database level, it's the same table with different types on. So in real life, it's quite simple how the open documents work with the type, how the posting routines is the same for all type of documents, and how the posted documents are based on the same table structure. But what you see is sorted in different types. So we have many different documents, and I will show how those correlate. First of all, on the open document side, we have a purchase order. A purchase order is where you can, of course, enter the quantity you want to buy from a vendor, quantities and prices, and the purchase order also works together with the purchase quote and the purchase blanket order. That means from a purchase quote that you could send to the vendor, you can make a purchase order if you're actually going to order it. From a purchase blanket order, which is a frame agreement, you can make several orders each time you want to buy some part of the frame agreement. You could also enter the purchase order manually just by entering it, or it could be created from the MRP batch job in the requisition worksheet or the planning worksheet. That's the normal way to create purchase orders. When posting a purchase order, you can post receipt and invoicing in two different steps. So normally you post the receipt in the warehouse when the order hits the ramp, or when the item hits the ramp, you receive the goods, enter quantity to receive, and post it. And that creates a posted purchase receipt, which is a matter of pieces and quantities. Later on in the finance department, typically, you will post the invoicing that creates a posted purchase invoice, which is another posted document. A purchase invoice is normally created manually when you buy something, and whereas the purchase order is typically an open list of documents that need to be received, and some of them is received and not invoiced, the purchase orders list is normally empty because you get the purchase order, the purchase invoice, you enter the purchase invoice information, and you post it. A purchase invoice could be made manually, or it could be created from a posted purchase receipt, meaning you could also receipt on several purchase orders and then grab all the posted receipts into one purchase invoice and post it, which will of course also update the purchase order document. Now the purchase invoice, when you post that, creates both transactions in one go, so you cannot separate the receipt and the invoicing. Of course, if it's based on a receipt document, it's already received when you invoice it. But if it's not all made from a posted purchase receipt document, but just entered manually, you will post the purchase receipt and the purchase invoice documents in one go. A purchase return order and a purchase credit memo has the same structure as and same differences as a purchase order and a purchase invoice. That means the purchase return order is a document where you can post the shipment, because we're shipping it out of stock back to the vendor separately, and you can post the invoicing separately, whereas credit memo is made in one go. And as you can see here, they can be fetched from a posted document or a posted receipt or posted invoice, both the return order and the credit memo. So normally when you want to return something, you point on the document you have posted that you want to reverse, and that creates the open document. But it can also be entered manually. And as you can see here, the postings are separate from the return order. So often the return order is made as an agreement with the vendor and lies in the system until the warehouse people collects the item, pack them, and then post the return shipment as a separate go. Later on, the finance department will post the purchase credit memo when they get it, whereas the credit memo is posted in one go. There's an archiving functionality in the purchase setup table where you can select which document you want to archive. So even though the open documents are all deleted when they're done, the archiving functionality makes it possible to save the document's history. So normally all open documents is deleted when you post the remaining quantities and invoice. And of course, on all those different documents, you have a print you can do, and this is an overview of print. They will be explained in another video, more detailed, and you can print all those documents from your purchase documents. In Business Central, you have different printing options related to the different purchase documents, and to provide an overview, I will just run through those simply here. So normally you have open documents, and when you post them, they turn into posted documents. And the open documents are normally deleted when the remaining quantities of the document is posted. So the complex overview of all the documents can be seen here, and it's explained detailed in another video. But basically, those are all the open documents on the left-hand side, and when you post it, they turn into all those posted different purchase document. Let's run through the document you print from each of the documents. So on the purchase order, you have the purchase order confirmation that you would normally send to the vendor. On the purchase quote, you have a purchase quote that you will send to the vendor, which is also just a PDF document, and he can respond to that and say if it's possible with quantities and prices, etc. On a purchase blanket order, likewise, it's a document that you send to the vendor as a kind of confirmation saying this is what we agreed. And on the posted purchase receipt, you have a purchase receipt document displaying all the lines that was received on that purchase order. That could be used, for instance, if you receive the good on the ramps and you don't use advanced warehouse management and you want to have a document to put the items away on stock afterwards, so you can print that and use that in the warehouse. A posted purchase invoice is a document, or the purchase invoice is a document related to the posted purchase invoice. This means from a purchase invoice, you don't have on the open purchase invoice, you don't actually have a purchase document. It's always printed from the posted invoice. It's not, of course, something you send to the vendor, so normally it will be used for archiving purposes, etc. So when you post the purchase invoice, you can select post and print, and it will be printed and you archive it as a PDF file or whatever. A purchase return order has a document called return order that you can use for communicating with the vendor which goods to send back to the vendor. It's a little like the order confirmation, except of course with the quantities is like the other way around. And on the purchase return receipt, it's just like purchase return shipment is like a purchase receipt, and that is a document you would normally post when putting the goods into a box and sending it back to the vendor. You would like a return receipt to give to the logistic guy and for the vendor to check it when he arrives or when he receives the goods. And the posted purchase credit memo is a document that you will also print for archiving purposes. So those are the documents related to the purchase documents. In this video, I will show you how to create a purchase credit memo. The scenario will be that we have received a quantity of items from our vendor, and we have received the invoice and posted the invoice as well as the receipt. Now, before we actually pay the amount, we figure out that 15 is bad, and we agree with the vendor to send it back. So before we do anything else, let's look at the entries on the vendor to see how much we owe them right now. I will navigate to my specific vendor, and from my navigation I will find my ledger entries, and I have only one ledger entry for this vendor, and the amount is 1,700 something euro. And I will now create the credit memo that I would expect from the vendor. So manually I will go on to my credit memo, purchase credit memo, and create a new one for this specific vendor. And now I can either enter the lines manually or copy from an existing posted invoice or shipment. So I will go to my process and copy document. I will select a posted invoice, and in this case I will select this one from vendor number 31,000, the allo export. So now I'm copying the complete document and then deleting the lines that I won't use. I'm doing this to make the application correct. I could do the application manually. I will show that in the end, but now I'm doing it like this. So now I delete the lines that I'm not going to credit, and I will change the quantity to the 15 I will send back. And Now I will wait for I will send this to the vendor or agree with the vendor, and when I get the actual credit memo from the vendor, I can enter here the number on the vendor's credit memo, like this, and now I could basically post the document. Before posting it, I would like to show you here in the application that it automatically created the invoice document as an application because I chose to copy the document in the beginning. If I didn't do that and have created the lines manually, I could have chosen Actions, Function, and then Application, and in the application window have chosen the lines to apply to. But it did that automatically. So all I need to do now is to post my credit memo. And here is my posted credit memo. And in the end, I will just show you go back to the vendor ledger entry from the vendor card, just to show you the effect of what we did. So now I have here 2 vendor entries, and I'm ready to pay the vendor what I need to pay them. I will give you a short introduction to the posted purchase documents in Business Central, and we'll just start here in the overview and then go into the system to see how it looks. So basically I have open purchase documents, and when I post them, they get into be posted documents, and I have a posted receipt, meaning the quantity handling. I have a posted purchase invoice, which is the money handling, and then I have a posted return shipment, which is if I return goods to the vendor, quantities, and a purchase credit memo. Let's see how it looks in Business Central. So if we take them one by one, we have a posted purchase receipt, which is normally the first document we are creating on a purchase order. This is the list, and you can create more than one receipt from a purchase order if you receive the part of the quantity. So this is an example of a purchase receipt with different lines. And likewise, I have my posted purchase invoice, this one, and this is about the money, and it creates a posted purchase invoice when I'm invoicing, of course, the purchase order. Then I have my posted return, posted purchase return shipment, which is about sending stuff back to my vendors, and they all look basically the same in the way they're built. So this is this is an item that I've sent back. And last of all, I have my posted purchase credit memo. Let's look at that as well. Posted purchase credit memo, the last of the posted document here on the purchase side. And that's like the invoice except the other way around and the figures. So this is the form posted purchase document. In Business Central, I can define locations, different locations to work on. A location is typically a geographical defined spot where I store my items, and defining different location has 2 different purposes. So in here, in my location list, if I find that one, I can see the location that I have set up. And one of the purpose for defining a specific location is that I want to plan specifically on that location with different planning parameters and the ability to see item availability on that location compared to other locations. And the other thing is that I like to handle my economics or my costing on that specific location. So in this video, I will give you an example of those 2 things. So planning per location could be done, for instance, defining a stock keeping unit card. So I will go into my stock keeping units. And a stock keeping unit is basically an item that is defined on a specific location. So if I search here on one item here, and it's only defined on location symbol 1 as a stock keeping unit, I will try to create the same item defined on location symbol 2. So if I define my item number and my location code, which would be symbol 2, I can now define specifically for that item being handled on location symbol 2 all kinds of parameters. So maybe in this case, I don't want to reorder it as an order policy, but maybe as a fixed reorder quantity with reorder point and safety stock on that specific location. I can set it up here. So now on this stock keeping unit, it differ from my normal item and the other stock keeping unit for that item. So going back to my list, I can see I have now 2 stock keeping units, or SKU as they're also called. And the other thing is that I can define costing per location. So if, for instance, I go into my inventory posting setup, in here, I can see that per location I have defined a location code and inventory posting group code, and it reflects on all different kind of accounts that I want my inventory to be reflected on. So I can use my location to control my costing as well, to see the inventory value on all different locations. In Business Central, I can define locations, different locations to work on. A location is typically a geographical defined spot where I store my items, and defining different location has 2 different purposes. So in here, in my location list, if I find that one, I can see the location that I have set up. And one of the purpose for defining a specific location is that I want to plan specifically on that location with different planning parameters and the ability to see item availability on that location compared to other locations. And the other thing is that I like to handle my economics or my costing on that specific location. So in this video, I will give you an example of those 2 things. So planning per location could be done, for instance, defining a stock keeping unit card. So I will go into my stock keeping units. And a stock keeping unit is basically an item that is defined on a specific location. So if I search here on one item here, and it's only defined on location symbol 1 as a stock keeping unit, I will try to create the same item defined on location symbol 2. So if I define my item number and my location code, which would be symbol 2, I can now define specifically for that item being handled on location symbol 2 all kinds of parameters. So maybe in this case, I don't want to reorder it as an order policy, but maybe as a fixed reorder quantity with reorder point and safety stock on that specific location. I can set it up here. So now on this stock keeping unit, it differs from my normal item and the other stock keeping unit for that item. So going back to my list, I can see I have now 2 stock keeping units, or SKU as they're also called. And the other thing is that I can define costing per location. So if, for instance, I go into my inventory posting setup, in here, I can see that per location I have defined a location code and inventory posting group code, and it reflects on all different kind of accounts that I want my inventory to be reflected on. So I can use my location to control my costing as well, to see the inventory value on all different locations. Why would you do a long-term planning? So normally a long-term planning will be everything on the other side of 3 months from now, maybe up till several years. And the long-term planning is about if you get items far away on the other side of the earth or something, and they have a long lead time, you have to order them maybe in bulks, and you have to seal them in, and it's like 6 months or even more. But whereas your production item has often a shorter lead time, because you can speed up the process by yourself. So if you're a planner and you need to make agreements with the vendors, or you need to actually place the order far ahead and long time ahead, you need to break down the requirements based on a sales forecast of some kind. So there will be some salesperson or sales responsible saying this is our expected forecast for the next year, and you need to break that down using MRP planning or other tools to figure out what should I buy now to fulfill my requirements for the next long time. In that case, you can get the item back for the master planners to actually be able to do the master planning and have the items in stock. So the problem in the long-term planning is that if you just use the normal MRP batch job and create a lot of firm planned orders, the master planners will have a lot of noise in their planning. So therefore, you need to figure out a way as a purchaser where it's possible for you to gain this data without making noise on the master planner that often have a much shorter horizon. Why would you do a long-term planning? So normally a long-term planning will be everything on the other side of 3 months from now, maybe up till several years. And the long-term planning is about if you get items far away on the other side of the earth or something, and they have a long lead time. You have to order them maybe in bulks, and you have to seal them in, and it's like 6 months or even more. But whereas your production item has often a shorter lead down, the requirements based on a sales forecast of some kind. So there will be some salesperson or sales responsible saying this is our expected forecast for the next year, and you need to break that down using MRP planning or other tools to figure out what should I buy now to fulfill my requirements for the next long time. In that case, you can get the item back for the master planners to actually be able to do the master planning and have the items in stock. So the problem in the long-term planning is that if you just use the normal MRP batch job and create a lot of firm planned orders, the master planners will have a lot of noise in their planning. So therefore, you need to figure out a way as a purchaser where it's possible for you to gain this data without making noise on the master planner that often have a much shorter horizon. Why would you do master planning? Well, the master planning is normally from around 2 weeks till 3 months, depending on your company and the way you do planning. But opposite to the detailed planning, where you make all the specific orders, puzzle together how you want to produce them, and the long-term planning, which is about breaking down requirement, the master planning is about the next couple of months on how to do the overall puzzle on production orders. So master planning is both actually for production orders and for purchasers. So the purchaser would like to plan after the master production planner is done. The master purchase planner would need to confirm all the purchase orders and do all the changes to get the goods on stock at time. So it's about avoiding stock out, being able to start all the production orders in a nicely manner and gain high service level and low inventory bindings. So this is the master planning for both manufacturing, meaning production, and for purchase. When I'm doing master planning in the planning worksheet, my expected outcome will be firm planned production orders and purchase orders that I need to fulfill my production order demands. So my complete list of firm planned production orders from 2 weeks till 3 months, for instance, will be everything that I expect to release at the dates that is here. And on those production order, I have material requirements and capacity requirements. So this master plan is creating, if I'm going into the order and looking into the line on the components, I can see what will be the expected component for an order like this, and I can view my routing, meaning what would be the expected capacity need for an order like this, and I can go further from my routing into my capacity need by navigating the line and looking at my allocated capacity, and those entry are the one used in the work center load, and these are the entry I can use for my capacity planning. So all the point of doing master planning is to break down material requirements and capacity requirements and being able to make a plan out of that. In this video, I will show you very shortly how you can use the planning worksheet to break down demands from sales orders through a manufacturing hierarchy to purchase orders. Just a very short overview. First of all, I want to show you the item hierarchy that I made, and I have a filter on description. So you can see I have made an alloy rim, which is a purchase item on the lowest level, and it goes into my alloy front wheel and alloy back wheel, which are new items, and those goes into a bill of material in my city bike alloy rim. And I've placed sales orders on the top level item. Now I want to calculate the demand for my lower level purchase items. Doing that, I go into the planning worksheet. The planning worksheet is the worksheet if you use manufacturing. If you only want to plan on purchase items, you could use the requisition worksheet, but it wouldn't break down hierarchies. From the planning worksheet, I can calculate a total plan, and I need to enter a starting date, ending date, maybe forecast if I want to calculate including forecast. And in this case, I want to add location filter. So with this settings, I will calculate the complete plan for all my items on location symbol 1. which of course takes a while. This functionality of MPS and MRP planning is very complex, so this is just a very short overview. Here I can see all my planned items. Those are planned in low-level order, meaning the top-level items first. And even though it looks like they are in order of item number, I can scroll down and see that I have other items further on with smaller numbers because they are purchase item. So here we come to, for instance, my rim, etc. I can filter on description to see my items that include the aloe, just to show you the small extract of this planning list. And here I have one planning line. I'll just delete this filter or remove it. Planning line on this purchase item. I can see here the item number. I can see it's a purchase item, the quantity it suggests that I buy with the setup I have made, etc. And from here I can select set a check mark in the accept action messages, and then I can carry out action messages, and I have to define what to do with my different kinds of orders. In this case I want to make purchase orders, which is the setting here. And when I carry out now, it will remove the line from my planning worksheet and actually create the purchase order. So if I go to my purchase orders now, purchase orders, the last created order, I could filter here in descending order. And my last order here is the aloe export, the order I just created on 280 pieces, and it's ready to send to the vendor. Why would you do detailed planning in Business Central? Well, detailed planning is normally going from today and 2 weeks ahead, depending on your company and the way you work with your planning schedules and how far along you're fixing your plan. But normally you would like to have a Gantt chart with an overview or do shortcuts on your production order, figuring out when can we actually release each production order, and we want to ensure that the items that we need is available, that the capacity is available, but we also would like to optimize the usage of capacity and labor. So all this small puzzle stuff needs to be very detailed planned. You can use the MRP planning to do that, or you can have Gantt charts with nice overviews. There is also some apps in the market where you can do bottleneck planning or other kind of capacity planning to optimize your capacity and labor use and to make sure that all your item requires are actually there. Normally, you could also do detailed planning for items with very short lead time, meaning day-to-day lead time. That's also part of the detailed planner's job.